Hello and welcome to Events Dear Boy, a new podcast for anyone involved in business events. If you're a conference producer, corporate event organiser, or events agency, then we're here for you. We want to share the highs and the lows, the best practices and the horror stories. You can expect ideas and inspiration, maybe some laughs too.
And if you're a speaker at these events, then we're here for you too. We'll be talking about how you do it, what makes speakers nervous, and how it feels when it all goes well or terribly.
My name is Catherine McNamara and I'm the marketing lead at the talent agency Pomona Partners and someone who has organised many business events in my working life. Alongside me is Pomona Partners founder and veteran of 1,001 speaking gigs, Tom Cheesewright.
The very ancient Tom Cheesewright. Each episode, we're going to be joined by a guest from the business event space, either an organiser or a speaker. We'll ask them to share their experiences, both good and bad, and their tips for other people in their positions.
And this week, I'm delighted that we're joined by Abi Humayun. Abi, really great to meet you.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you very much.
So, let's launch in. Can you tell us a little bit about your role?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am co-founder of a live events and creative communications agency called People Activation. People Activation is all around creating emotional connection between a live experience and the audience within an organisation that is receiving that message. So typically our audiences tend to be employees of large globally networked organisations. My roles, other than obviously being a board director of the business, is supporting my very talented team of event and content producers. And really, I tend to play the role of joining the dots. So what that means is ensuring that our clients' objectives are being achieved through the solutions that we come up with.
So tell us about those events, because that's a very specific type of event, isn't it? When you're trying to reach employees, engage them, inspire them, and for that type of organisation as well. What characterises those events? What makes them different? What's the format? What do they look like?
Well, typically our events, they tend to kind of fall into two or three brackets, really. So they're either a leadership event where you like obviously working with a leadership community within an organization, or it's an all employee activation, which is typically around getting employees aligned behind a purpose, a vision, values, or a corporate strategy. And also the third sort of event that we typically tend to do would be what we term mini activations or team activations. And those are smaller scale activations that would be running in a team of, say, between 10 and about 50 people, which would be kind of obviously a more intimate experience, very hands-on. So, really our aim, and I think kind of what is really important for events agencies in general, is to be ensuring that they are really moving an organization or the people within an organization forward. They are designed not just for, fireworks and fun, but actually, if done right, they have the power to really shift a perspective and an emotion within the people that attended in order to have longer term benefit. But in order to do that, there needs to be a clear objective, there needs to be a clear strategy, and there needs to be clear measurement metrics outlined from the start.
Mm.
And that's really very much where we come in, so we are we always kick off our experiences with our clients through a design sprint where we apply a design thinking methodology to ensure that we are extracting all of the key things. What is the purpose of the event? What are the key objectives? What are the main messages? What do we want people to move from and to as a result of attending that experience? And then we will then go away and design and co-create as well, really, with the client, because this is it's always a co-creation process terms of how we get from A to B, but we will go away and work on, well, what does that actually look like, and what is the experience? And sometimes the experience ends up being totally different to what the client might have originally thought it was going to be. They might have something in their mind, but actually what they had in their mind might be not quite right when you actually look at the purpose and the objectives that are required. So it's always designed first and foremost with what do you want to get out of it, and what do we want to what's the change that we want to see as a result of this experience. And then really, if you start with the end in sight, the rest is easy.
You sometimes find that clients come to you with, this is what I want to do, as in, I really fancy, I don't know, seeing this speaker or going to this event,
Yes.
or I'm
Yeah.
really into football, so let's do something
Yeah.
football themed.
Yes, I want to do a World Cup themed event. I mean, obviously most of our events are super fun, just because they're tied in with a strategy or a vision or something that might be perceived as being businessy, doesn't actually mean that the end outcome is at all what you might call traditional or corporate. I mean, we've done activations where we've actually kidnapped CEOs and held them for the day, and then the teams have had to. This was actually with 1,100 employees. They
Wow.
all, yeah, it was a massive event in the client's offices, and we had Danny Dyer as one of the secret agents who was leading the investigation. And the whole kind of day was really geared up around rescuing the CEO, but the organization, the employees had to provide the right information in order to achieve that. So it was really fun, really super fast paced. Fortunately, the CEO in question was probably the most popular CEO I've ever worked with, and everyone actually wanted to get him out.
Did the CEO know he was going to be kidnapped?
He was up for it. Yeah, he was up for it. So yeah, it wasn't a total, I think we could have got into quite a bit of trouble if we'd just put a bag over his head and bundled him into the back of a van. But like, yeah, so I think the objectives can be traditional, or often we find quite a lot of commonalities or common themes in terms of what organizations want to do. Um, in terms of how far we push it creatively, I mean, that is obviously one kind of, there's been others we've done at that sort of end of the spectrum, but then we've also done a lot of events or conferences that have maybe been a little bit more traditional, but have still got that kind of creative red thread throughout them. And really, it's about telling a story. It's about ensuring that we're bringing people on a journey, and that when they are leaving that experience, they're really clear about what it is that they've actually experienced, and what is it that they need to now go away and do differently as a result of that experience. That's really important.
That's really interesting. What you've kind of, I mean, I'm sure we've all been in situations where we've been in an event setting and it's been quite kind of like broadcast, sit in the audience, and some information you soak up, some bounces off you, but you've kind of talked about this almost like wraparound content, this like immersive experience that involves the employees. How have you seen that change kind of over the past few years? And because it's quite a marked difference, isn't it, really, kind of the last 10, 15 years. Could you just talk us about some of the changes that you've seen from being in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say it's ever evolving, but also that change isn't linear. So sometimes we found kind of like that there's been quite an appetite for certain, like I would say non-corporate or very immersive experiences, and then other clients may prefer not to sort of go quite as like creative in terms of pushing the envelope, I would say. So it does vary from client to client as well, based on what their corporate culture is, as to how far they would want to push things. I mean, when we started out, I think one of the books that kind of came out actually not long after we founded. So we've been going as an organization now for 17 years.
Wow.
And not long after we started, Simon Sinek published Start With Why. So really, we were ahead of the curve in a way, because we were talking about when we established well, Rapport as it was called initially, now of course rebranded to People Activation. But Rapport was really all about getting people on the same wavelength. So almost like breaking down barriers between leadership and employee. And that's really still very true today. This isn't about status, it's about people. And it's about creating moments, and like one moment in someone's life that actually you're never going to experience again. So that's the power of an event when it's done well. You're actually creating a moment or a memory that people will have an emotion associated or connected with. In terms of, I suppose, like how the industry's evolved, I would say that there's now a greater reverence for organizations needing to be purpose aligned, really, for them to have a strong sense of purpose that employees can connect to. I think, the forward thinking businesses, 15, 20 years ago, they were purpose led. I mean, we've all known Innocent Drinks, for example, like right from the start, they've always been doing things quite different. They've always had been very purpose driven. But that wasn't necessarily the case with other organizations, and especially organizations that maybe had been established 100, 150 years ago, to essentially serve a commercial need rather than like the employee kind of need. So definitely things have evolved. There's also been, I think it was in 1997, there was a article published in the Harvard Business Review, which is called The Service Profit Chain. And that really identifies the connection between happy employees equals happy customers equals more profit for a business. So I think with all these things, evolution, change takes time. Businesses now are all definitely singing from that hymn sheet of like needing to have purpose and vision and values. I think the role that we play as events experts is actually in ensuring that these aren't just written words on a page or a values posted by a lift or a water cooler, that these are actually put into the hearts and minds of the people. And that's where the power of events can really make the difference and make the shift to ensure that there is that return on investment for the businesses.
17 years in, you're clearly still very passionate about this. Are
Yeah.
there bits of the job that you most enjoy, and are there bits that you just sort of put off and avoid or delegate these days?
There's several things I absolutely love. I love working with my clients. I love running workshops with them. I love getting to understand their business. And then I love working with my team. I've got a phenomenal team of producers, content producers, designers, creatives, operations people, and also the technical production side as well. So I really enjoy sort of, working with all the different like elements of the event. But I suppose my big passion, other than running the client workshops, is definitely in sitting down and joining the dots. I'm a massive fan of like just really getting under the skin of the business and being able to know or intuitively feel what might be right for them. And then ensuring that our sort of messaging, our creative, our vision is at every step of the way is ensuring that that is coming to life, so that it's not being diluted as the project evolves and develops. So that's definitely I would say my passion.
And come on, which bits don't you like? What do you get rid of? What do you get off your plate as fast as possible?
I think admin. I would say, yeah, the things for me that kind of, and weird thing is, when I actually get into admin, I really enjoy it. It's not that I don't like it at all. It's just I think it's kind of, you need to have your focus on it, and you need to set aside like I don't know, a half a day or a full day to do it. And I can easily get distracted from, by the things that I really enjoy, like, client calls or emails or working on a strategy or working with the creative team. So yeah, I would say,
That's the bit
you
you have
know,
to knuckle down to do.
I have to knuckle down to it, but I do believe that, I'm a firm believer in um, not doing the things that I'm meant to be doing. I don't want to be kind of shying away from things. I think it's sometimes you have to just find the right moment
Mm.
to do it. And I had a fantastic coach once who made me just basically every day she told me to like write down kind of like in groups the things of like put headers up onto it of all the things that you had to do. So one of those might be admin. And she just said, look at it and just say, how do you feel today about that, like that quadrant? And if you feel like, oh, okay, I feel quite good about that, she said, that's the time to do it. So just like go for it then. So yeah, so I very much, it's funny, that was probably about 12 years ago, but it still sticks in my head. And when I feel like I've got a lot of conflicting priorities, I still draw out those quadrants and kind of bucket things and then look at each of them, and but also know it's okay if I don't feel like tackling it that day. It can wait. So yeah.
I use color coded labels on my
Oh,
Trello
do
to do list for
you?
something very similar. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think mine's a bit old school really now, but yeah, definitely. I think the grouping is very helpful.
So this I'm really interested to know the answer to this next question. What event are you most proud of that you've delivered?
Um, oh, that's a good one. Oh my gosh, I've done so many. I think I'm going to pick an event that we did in 2016. It was a 10th anniversary celebration. It was a single event and it happened simultaneously in 16 locations throughout Europe, the Middle East, and Africa.
Wow.
And we had 4,700 employees who attended across each of those locations. So essentially, it was a bit, I suppose the best way to describe it is a little bit like when you do the Eurovision sort of like voting at the end and you can go live to all of these locations. But it was the entire show was simultaneously two-way broadcasted across 16 locations. So
Wow.
if, for example, you were in South Africa, you were receiving the content from obviously whichever location was broadcasting, but at any time we could go live to South Africa. And it was absolutely the most emotional, goosebumpy experience I think I've had in my life. It was incredible. And it started off with a 30-minute opening performance, which went around every single country. And each country performed 2 minutes of this opening story. And it was wonderful. It was a dance basically. And it started off in South Africa um, with a little girl. And she was like on her own, and she danced for 2 minutes. And then the next place you went to was the Netherlands, and you could see a little boy sitting on a bench, and he got up, he had a balloon, which was to do with the branding of this particular business, and he then danced. And then you saw them come together in another location, say Portugal. And, it was just how it all came together, those 2 minutes of individual performance in each location, but being received both virtually and live. It was something that I've never experienced before, and the
Wow.
audience hadn't either. And the other thing that made it truly phenomenal was that we committed at the start of this project that we would go out to the employees who were there's 4,700 employees, and we would ask them some key questions about the kind of the anniversary and like what it meant to them. So we would ask them like what did they feel proud of, what's inspired them, and what surprised them. And we got back through the country managers, I think about 550 responses. And the content, which was actually the event itself, was only 3 hours. It was a 3 hour broadcast, like a TV show, really. So the content was all highly curated, short and sharp, and just very much like, as if you were watching that sort of pacey um, TFI Friday style kind of live show with hosts in each country. But the stories formed the program essentially, and it was brought to life in so many different ways. We had competitions between the countries, we had urban poets, we had choirs, we had performers. It was honestly, it was absolutely amazing, and it was recognized widely in the industry that year. I think we won in total 7 industry awards for it across multiple
Wow.
awards ceremonies. So it was definitely a groundbreaking event. And I think, now post COVID, these sorts of things, what we did in 2016, now I feel like probably with a lot of the sort of hybrid working that's going on in organizations, I feel that this is actually a really good solution when maybe you don't
Yeah.
want to get all 4,000 people together. Or equally, when you're trying to make the choice between, well, do we invest in like just getting 200 of these people together or 500 of these people? Or do you actually invest in bringing all of that organization together, but in that sort of virtual way, but that's still highly immersive and interactive? I think there's been a bit of a sort of post-COVID, I'd say, I'm going to call it laziness, really, where there's a lot of like events now are being like run on teams, you
Mm.
know, and I go back to what I was saying before. I do feel that events really have that opportunity to connect people, that you are creating a moment for people.
Really
And
important at the moment.
Mm.
it's really important. And I think now more than ever, people are a bit more isolated. They are working more remotely. Um, the money spent on putting on an event, it might seem like an extravagance, but it has the power to shift the whole energy of an organization. And that's something that I don't think, I think you'd be hard pushed to do that with a Teams town
Mm.
hall.
Well, there you go. For any corporate leaders listening, there's your benchmark for how you do engagement internationally for a hybrid workforce. It sounds
Mm,
incredible.
yeah.
Other end of the spectrum, though, biggest career event disaster.
Oh God, I knew you were going to ask me this. Okay. I think this was one. Okay. Yeah, this actually didn't happen in the end. Thank goodness. But my gosh, it was a near, it was a near miss. It was actually when I was at my previous agency, and we'd been appointed by a sporting agency, I suppose, who were putting on a tournament, a global football tournament, which was being hosted at Old Trafford in Manchester United's stadium. Um, so this is going back about 18 or 19 years, I think. And we were asked to build the winner's podium on the pitch of Old Trafford during the advert break. So there was going to be a 90-second advert break at the end of the match before the kind of trophy and the medals were all presented. So we engaged with our kind of set builder that we would normally work with, and they kind of, obviously the brief was you need to construct something that like you can get onto the pitch really easily, that can be built in like 90 seconds, that's obviously safe, sturdy, not slippy. And also we had to create a branded backdrop. So it was a tall order anyway. But so anyway, then the set builder had constructed this thing out of wood, And when I saw when I saw it on the day we did a rehearsal, I was thinking, oh my God, this is heavy. This like this wood is heavy. So anyway, was having this sort of, I was thinking, gosh, I was worrying, not only will we get it done in time, but oh my God, there's actually a very strong possibility that this is going to sink into the pitch. So what then happened on the day, and this would made it even worse, was it started raining really, really heavily, and the ground was really soggy. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, like we've built this really heavy wooden staging. We've got to not only construct it in this 90 seconds, but also it's going to sink. It's going to damage the pitch. We're going to get sued. There's going to be footballers sliding off it, and I was going all the way, to like the kind of expensive legal cases from twisted ankles and things like that. So I couldn't have been more relieved when, first of all, the kickoff was delayed due to the rain. I was thinking, okay, good. And then eventually the rain just did not stop. It got worse, in fact, and then it became a full-on thunderstorm, lightning, the lot. And yeah, eventually it was actually called off, and they did a sort of award ceremony like in a room somewhere away from the pitch, which was based on the kind of the highest ranking team at that point in time. So yeah, so it's like it was a narrow escape. I mean, it's not really what we do now. I have to say that was kind of very much like previous
Yeah.
the previous agency I was working at. But I think my lesson would be really, to just consider all possible eventualities when you are designing a solution to a challenge that you haven't encountered before. And also don't put the emphasis on other people to be the experts either. Upskill yourself and feel comfortable in the final solution that you found. So that's the lesson I took away from that. And, very much it's still relevant today as much as it was then.
Both of those are the kind of things that give me sleepless nights. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have visions of footballers sailing away on a wooden ark across Old Trafford's pitch.
I honestly, I think I did have not just one sleepless night the night before. I think I actually had about a week of sleepless nights where I was literally thinking of every possible thing that could go wrong, and yeah, and I was seeking reassurance constantly. So it was like, yeah, but it's definitely one I wouldn't want to repeat.
So you've mentioned Danny Dyer, but I'm assuming he's not the probably well, he might be your most favourite speaker that you've had and booked for events. But can you just talk to us about favourite memorable speakers that you've had as part of some of these events?
Yeah, I mean, I did love Danny Dyer. Like I have to say, he was an absolute gent, really friendly man, got involved with it, really threw himself into the day. But his role was definitely more of immersive hosting kind of actor. He was playing a role basically. But yeah, he did it very well. Um, I'm going to say I've got two really. The first one is somebody that I saw about 20 years ago, and he has stuck in my mind ever since. His name's Benjamin Zander. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No.
Oh gosh, well, he is the former maestro of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, and he came to speak, and I think he spoke for about 2 hours. So no, quite a tall order really, to about 1,000 teachers. It was an education conference. And I think I still struggle to think what is it that like really was it that kind of made that sort of that connection for me. But he is a very, very inspiring man. He's written a book. In his book, he talks about how at the start of the year, when he was having students to kind of like learn in Boston at the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, he said to them all, you're going to finish this year with an A. All you have to do to get your A is you have to write me a letter from the end of the year saying what you've done to achieve it. So they all did that, and then obviously at the end of the year they got an A. But it like his approach to sort of mindset and I think just genuinely being a really great person and an inspiring
Mm.
leader really came through. And he actually said to everybody in the audience, he had a grand piano on stage, and he said to all of the audience, he said, "Who here likes classical music?" And maybe about 30% of the audience put their hands up. He said, "Okay, by the end of the next half an hour, you are all not just going to like classical music, you're going to love it." And he basically kind of started playing some Chopin, and then he stopped playing the Chopin, and then he told us the story behind that piece of music, and then he played it again. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house. It was incredible. Like everybody was so invested in that story and in that kind of moment. So he absolutely, I would say, has been somebody that stood out for me. And then the other guy, the other person who I worked with actually very recently is a neuroscientist called Bo Lotto.
Mm.
I don't know again if you've heard of Bo.
Mm.
But he kind of really blends, I would say, neuroscience with kind of almost the psychology of knowing less when you leave than you do when you go in. He essentially flips perspectives on everything, and it's so interesting. I found his talk absolutely spellbinding, as did pretty much all of the 300 leaders in the audience. So he runs a scientific sort of experimentation business called Lab of Misfits, and yeah, he really resonated with me as well.
Brilliant. We'll try and find links to both those and put them in the show notes. From seeing these sort of incredible speakers, what tips would you give to other speakers at events that you're running?
I feel like for me, I would say really have one key takeaway. Um, you know, don't bombard audiences with insights and tools. The best speakers we work with have a really clear and simple message that people take back and incorporate into their day-to-day lives. So I'd say be unique, think about how your message really connects with the organization, tailor it to that organization, don't be generic, and absolutely understand the audience that you're presenting to. So what level are they within the organization? Maybe where is their mindset going into this? So yeah, definitely I wouldn't say don't just press repeat, but definitely tailor your content. And then I'd say I don't think many speakers these days do this, but I would say absolutely no death by PowerPoint unless it really adds to your talk, in which case keep it visual and keep it
Mm.
fast paced.
Yeah.
It can be a really great tool when done well to support your story, but if you're not mega creative and haven't got somebody working with you to create that amazing content, I would just limit it.
Brill.
Yeah, I think the campaign to end stock speeches starts here.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But yeah, I mean, a guest speaker has a huge privilege, really, to be able to sort of deliver a message to a captive audience. And yeah, it's kind of I think they have the power to transform. Again, talking about these moments, often it's the guest speaker. If something might resonate with somebody or 10 people or 100 people in the audience, and that message has had the power to transform maybe how
Yeah.
that person might see the event or even see a part of their life. So yeah, it's a
Brilliant.
really great position to be in.
I think that's a really great place to wrap this up. Abi, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you too for listening and watching. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave us a review, like, subscribe, and importantly, share the podcast with your colleagues and peers, whether they're fellow speakers or event organisers. And we'll be back soon with another episode. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.